Okay, we are live.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chandra Krantz. I'm the co-chair for our AIB Committee Pillar 4 group. Today is November 1st, 2022. And we will be taking a deep dive today looking at the objectives as listed in the preliminary draft report of the AIB plan itself. At first, I'd like to do some introductions, and just to let you all know, we are a little light on our attendance today. We've had several important family emergencies that have happened for our committee members. So although small, we are mighty, and we will move forward with our objectives today. First, my co-chair, Ellie Mitchell.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ellie Mitchell. I'm the director of the Maryland Out of School Time Network, and we also serve as the backbone for the Maryland Coalition for Community Schools.
Kara.
Hi, everyone. Kara Burhans. I'm the Strategic Initiatives Coordinator for Washington County Public Schools.
I think you're muted, but I think
Rachel?
that was me. I am Rachel Amstutz, the Operations and Policy Director at the AIB.
And behind the scenes, we have Graham Harding. Graham, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Graham. I'm just a management associate here at the AIB, helping out, supporting the technology.
Thank you so much. Ellie, can you go ahead and pull up our agenda for today?
I need screen sharing ability.
Let me give you a co-host real quick.
Okay. All right. Let me find my correct window here. It's always fun. Now that's the implementation plan. Hold on a second. I know that it's here. It's just give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. It's right here. Let me see if I can find it now. Too many windows open. All right. All right. This is our feedback form. Here is our agenda for November 1st. So I think we are passing it to Rachel for those quick updates, and then I can say a little bit about youth outreach.
Perfect. So in terms of updates from the AIB, last Wednesday, we released the draft Blueprint Comprehensive Implementation Plan. It was emailed out to anybody on our mailing list. If anybody watching us is not on the mailing list and would like to be, you can join that from our webpage, aib.maryland.gov. There, section 8 is the section that many of the schools are waiting for. That part is due to be released this week. And so that includes the criteria for success, the template, some of the things that are LEA specific that people, we know they're eager to have that. And I did add an item in here, that third bullet point. The Consortium on Coordinated Community Supports sent out an email blast today, and it's about their progress and their work, but also they are currently seeking public input. So we wanted to make this committee aware of that and ask that you also help spread that so that the broad public is aware of what's going on. So I downloaded the release, and if you click on that link there, seeking public input, everybody can find the links to the documents that they're seeking feedback on and the questions that they specifically are hoping to get wide feedback from across the state to help shape their comprehensive plan as well. The only other piece I guess I didn't mention with the feedback plan is that we are looking for feedback from everywhere and everyone possible. Anybody interested in the blueprint to really help us refine the draft plan and make it as solid as it possibly can be before it is finalized and released in December. So we have a public hearing scheduled on November 10th. The sign up information for that was sent yesterday and is also available on our website, both on the homepage and then on the implementations plan page. If people can submit written testimony, if they wish to do that. And then there's still the old link that if you see edits or something that you just want to use a Google form, you can use that link as well. So we're monitoring all of the submission strategies and really hope to get feedback. So as much as your advisory committee can spread the word to different groups of people and help us make sure that people know that it's out and that we really do want feedback, we would appreciate that.
So I just wanted to add that I did have a conversation today with the folks at the Y who run the sort of Y teen programs and also Y Youth in Government. And I forwarded them the information about the hearing on the 10th. Encourage them to share this across their networks and also to share it with young people, try to see if they can collect some feedback. And I also asked them to think with me a little bit about what's the best way for a group like ours to interact with their young people in a more long-term way. And I'll be doing the same outreach to the Maryland Alliance of Boys and Girls Clubs, making sure they have the November 10th information, making sure they have the, and offering them the same opportunity to kind of just give us feedback about what's the best strategy for the young people they serve to engage them in these conversations. So I hope to get some good feedback from them on that. And at the very least, there'll be awareness with those two large statewide youth development organizations, so that they know a way, they can share that with their networks and with some of their young people. So it's a baby step. It's not a huge, but that outreach is super important. And we did also send it out through the Most Network blast email today about the hearing on the 10th and the ways to give feedback. And so that'll go to a lot of youth serving organizations across the state. So that is good. I wanted to also ask Rachel a quick question, which is today, I noticed in the plans and in our pillar, there's reference to a report that's due from MSDE about the neighborhood indicators of poverty. And I'm wondering if that actually did get released today or if we have an update on when that is supposed to be anticipated.
Sure. I was in a meeting today where that was discussed with MSDE and they said it's on the way to us today. So that was earlier around lunchtime. So it sounds like we'll have it soon and we post those to our website. So I can let you know when it's out.
That's great, because I know that that's actually part of our feedback is some questions about that. So I am gonna switch us. Should I switch us to the feedback document, Chandra, what do you think? Okay. And we had planned to take about 10 to 15 minutes, 10 minutes on objective 1, and then 15 minutes, I think, per each additional objective to kind of have folks who've already made comments reflect on those comments and then allow people to add additional comments in these sections as we go through. Does that sound about right?
Can I jump back real quick?
Yeah.
The neighborhood indicators of poverty, I believe that actually was received early, and I'll get you a link to that one. The report they were turning in today was the English, I think an English language report. No?
Report that was due today was mental health
Behavioral health
report.
from LEAs. MSDE has another one due to us. So yes, we've been receiving the ones from the LEAs, and we'll put those up as well. But then I will get you a link to the document that we have.
Great. And that neighborhood indicators of poverty is the report that was due 11/1. It was received early. Is that what you're saying?
Let me double check, but I believe, yes, we've had that one for more than a week, I think, and I'll get you that. And then I'm pretty sure it's an English language learner report today. Well, there's so many reports. I'll get you a link.
All right. We asked this particular objective for all of we had just as a process note, we had assigned each objective to a member of the committee, and just to take the lead, not to keep any member of the committee from commenting on any of the other objectives. So except for objective 1, which we asked everybody to look at. And so right now, it looks like for this first objective, just a few comments are in the mix in terms of on the outcomes. They talk about accurate identifying student and school poverty, but they did not talk about district level poverty. And so sometimes the overall poverty level of a district is tied to certain state or federal grants. So just ensuring that when we're talking about school level poverty and student level poverty, we are also talking about having the districts be identified. And then we were confused a little bit and this may get answered in the report that is due out. Like right now we're talking about the Medicaid certification process and alternative forms and direct cert. And we don't know whether all of those things are then made irrelevant by the neighborhood indicators of poverty plan. And then, so, would districts not have to implement an alternative form in the case of using the neighborhood indicators of poverty? And then what's the implications of the neighborhood indicators of poverty, both for the law, because it says farms in the law, but also for federal related recognition? But some of that may already be in the report.
Is that for me?
Yes. I mean, you don't, it doesn't have to be for you. It could also be.
Some of it I may need to take back and get you more information, but probably most helpful, I've linked the report that was submitted. They got it to us in October. The final report is linked in the agenda now. It's long, so it's not something you could pull up now and read through. There's quite a bit, and you're gonna have to dig into there. Some of these I can definitely take back, but I don't have any fast answers on any of these questions.
And then there's one other comment about whether on 441.5A, is this determining whether, is that particular task determining whether juvenile services would be eligible for CPG funds? Or is that, it's a question because I know that it says something about determining resources related to juvenile services, but it's kind of unclear to me and maybe to others what exactly that task is.
Okay. So I'm going to add a note to myself just to share this back with our team and as feedback to clarify and consider.
Chandra, I'm going to let you take objective 2 since this is in your wheelhouse.
And I did not type anything in purposefully because I wanted to discuss it with all of you as well. So when we look at objective 2, the objective is to improve the education of English learners in the state, helping students to meet the proficiency targets and exit as soon as possible, and delivering high quality educational programs with tailored supports for English learners. Those are the outcomes. So the first questions that come to mind with this are pretty foundational in nature. There's a lot of talk about English learning and bilingual education. And one of the first important distinctions that needs to be made is a good definition of bilingual education versus English learning and the different modalities that English learning is delivered. We talk a lot about bilingual education, but in the state of Maryland, there is no route to achieve certification for teachers to become bilingually certified at this point. University of Maryland is, I believe, starting a program. I'm not sure if it has started yet. So if we're going to be looking at modalities of delivery of programming to meet the needs of English learners, and we're looking at bilingual education as a part of that, then we're going to be looking at Pillar 2, excuse me, and staffing those schools with needed supports for bilingual education from teachers who are bilingually certified. So opening up pathways for teachers and teacher candidates and knowing what that really means, bilingual education. And is the state going to put out how we are defining it as a state, or are we putting it out as an LEA definition? When we look at the work group for English learners recommendation to improve the education of EL students in Maryland, the question came up as to whether these recommendations made by the world language or the work group for English learners will be part of the Title III expectations, because that's where the funding comes from. So are we going to wrap in these expectations and the ability to deliver and meet the expectations as a part of our Title III funding sources?
Sorry, I lost my document. I
It's
will.
okay. And then the work group for English learners reviewed instructional methods and services provided to English learners. They're gathering data and information. But the question came up, are we looking at all languages? Are we looking at some languages for delivering instruction in a bilingual sense? So I know Spanish is a predominant language. However, French, German, Arabic, Chinese, so on and so forth, are we opening this up to all, or are we focusing on specific language requirements? As a part of the community schools program, I know that there are some schools who are looking at the family coordinator position or the community liaison outreach, and they're combining a professional who is able to communicate with families in other languages. But we don't really have a way to help folks get recognized to be able to interpret and translate in the manner in which they should for an educational entity. So really providing opportunities and connections for people to become certified to be able to become an interpreter or a translator in a formal sense, rather than just utilizing family, friends, neighbors, and children to do that job for us. So there's talk about a bilingual liaison. And again, it comes back to where are we going to find the people? Are there going to be recommendations? I know that in many of the counties throughout the state, we don't sponsor visas. So if we're getting truly bilingual people, where are we going to be recruiting from? And how are we going to get them into our school systems and working to benefit our students? I don't know if anybody else on the committee here has anything that they'd like to add.
I
as a
just
part
wanted to flag that one of your first comments sounds like it's something we want to raise up back to the teacher, recruiting diverse teachers and
Yes.
Leaders question. And just so when we do have that comment in here, we want to make sure that we're sending that over to that group. And yeah,
Agreed.
Pillar 2.
Mhm.
And I don't know if there is something in Pillar 2's work plan that relates to the English language learner teacher recruitment or staff recruitment. But if not, there obviously
There should be.
there
Mhm.
should be.
Right.
I wonder if we want to chat for a second, like the best way to get that communication over to the Pillar 2 Advisory Committee and or back to the AIB. Would you want to email the committee chair and co-chair for Pillar 2? Do you want me to do that? Like how can I help you with that?
If you want to go ahead and send out communication on our behalf, that'd be wonderful, Rachel. Thank you.
Okay, and then I'll CC you in case there's clarification needed on the question. Okay.
And Chandra, you're gonna drop all those into the document from
Yes.
your notes.
Mhm.
Kara, any additional thoughts on this objective 2?
No, I don't have any.
All right, then we are going to move on to objective 3. Kara, I know you took the lead on
Have some
this.
thoughts.
Yeah, I can see.
So just so everyone knows, special education is my wheelhouse. That's my undergrad degree. So Rachel, I don't know if you can answer this for me. I felt like there's, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's some other things changing that I don't know about, but I felt like perhaps there may be a misunderstanding of Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and special education law, and how 504s are implemented in schools. I mean, I know, OCR requires that school systems have 504s, and we do, but those students do not have any objectives or goals. And when I read this draft, it appears, particularly on page 106, that the authors are kind of lumping 504 plans in with IEPs, and they're not the same.
That's a great, that's a great flag, and I will take that back. I know exactly what you mean about the difference between the two.
So I think when you see my comments, that's a big concern for me with LEAs. They also talk about the funding with 504s. I don't think Washington County is different than other LEAs. I've worked contractually in 2, but including my undergrad in 5. So there is no funding tagged for 504 students in the LEAs that I'm aware of. And I did check with our finance folks just to make sure I wasn't off my rocker. So that too, I think needs to be just fleshed out a little bit in the draft, because their spending is they're addressing both. Just a comment, as you'll see, as you scroll down, for LEAs, we'll need to be aware of this because we've tracked progress in accordance with subgroups for students with disabilities under IEPs, but we have not done that for students with 504 plans. So that will be something that LEAs need to make sure that they have those tags in and are able to do that. I think. Yeah, then just like 431A, with the increase, for example, if an LEA is already spending as much per pupil as is required, I would assume that they don't have to increase, but perhaps adding some language that says if they haven't already met it, that they need to increase, because there are systems that spent a lot of money on special ed and are probably close if haven't exceeded that. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for me.
Great. We're flying through these, just so we know. We may have to circle back when folks jump on to have them have the opportunity to review. So I took objective 4 and added a number of questions and then a few comments. Wondered why teacher recruitment and retention and teacher attendance was a outcome under objective 4. While I do believe that a community school environment will improve lives for teachers, there really aren't any other directly HR related aspects of this that seem to lead to that. I'm also curious why improved school climate and parent and family engagement outcomes aren't listed here in relationship to the community school model. So just wanted to flag that there could be a myriad of other outcomes attached to this objective. I thought it was interesting that they talked about looking at the CS coordinator position and when it should be hired. I think the issue of whether or not that position is filled is a big one because it goes to the spending of the district. But it also is something that we might want to track for, just like teachers and other positions, whether there are vacancies and how we're retaining community school coordinators. That also might be a way to help identify districts or places that need technical assistance around that piece. I didn't stick this comment in here, so I'm not sure who did, but there's a wording that of should be used instead of in the competency in the diversity in the community and in cross
That was me. It was just a syntax issue. It felt like.
A couple other things about the report on school eligibility. So MSDE, that should say MSDE, is supposed to give a report on which schools are eligible for CPG each year. If we're not moving to the neighborhood indicators of poverty plan like immediately, we want to be clear on what criterion's been used to determine that school's eligibility. Also, there's a lot of talk in this document about the needs assessment process and what it should include. But one consideration would be that there might need to be some kind of common needs assessment tool, even if districts are able to customize it by adding things to it that they want to do specifically, that would make sense. But in order to roll up some aggregate data from these needs assessment at the state level, I think they're going to have to at least be similar processes and collect similar data functions. And that also leads to being able to examine trends within the needs assessments. What's commonly coming up. And that might be data that the consortium and coordinated supports would want as well, in terms of being able to identify, like, if 20 counties are saying this is the thing that we need most, how to direct resources in that direction. And that there might be needs for TA, just in the technical assistance parts of this, for LEAs and the community school coordinators on doing the needs assessment. Also, there was a note about schools and school districts leveraging additional resources for their in-school and for their community school strategies. That also might be an area of TA, because I don't think that's always something that people are like, oh yeah, I know exactly what I can do to apply for 8 different things to enhance my community school. And then some comments, creating consistency around job descriptions, ranges of salary for community school coordinators. This is becoming an issue in the state, in terms of competitiveness between districts on that. we've talked before about the schools that have, the districts that have fewer than 40 schools. And those that do have the ability to coordinate, there should be some guidance and structure around that coordination. I had a question about, there's a line in 4.4.4a that the LEA could appeal to the AIB for flexibility. And I didn't understand exactly what that looks like, how that works, and what does that mean? Is there a process by which they do that? Is that a submission in writing? When does that happen? Is that an annual appeal for flexibility? Could that be the answer to the legislative fix needed to make there be a more ability for the districts to use to coordinate their funds? But if so, what does it look like, and what does it mean that the LEA can appeal? And again, just stating that it is a governor's budget discretion item for the appropriation to support the director of community schools. But that also might need to be scaled as more schools come on board. So just something to think about. And then I haven't done this yet, but I am going to spend some time going back through the law, because there's a lot in community schools in terms of the definition of what a community school is that I feel isn't entirely reflected in this plan. So for example, it's part of the law's definition of community schools is that there is a distributed leadership model in place. I don't see anything that's really measuring that or looking for that within these tasks. This is more about the wraparound services, about the full-time community school coordinator, about the, so I'm just gonna go back and read and feel like if there's things that should have been pulled out that could be tasks, so for instance, something we talk a lot about in the community school world is the importance of principal professional development around community schools. That helps support that distributed leadership implementation. Maybe there are a few things that just didn't make it into the workflow charts exactly, but are still part of the law. I did notice that we are joined by a few other people. And so I wanted to stop here, I think would probably be the way to go. And go back to the top. Does that make sense, folks? Since we are, Jaden, do you want to introduce yourself and then?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I just got off a meeting with our superintendent here. So I'm the student member of the Pillar 4 Advisory Committee, and I'm from Anne Arundel County.
And I see, we also have Fagan. That's great.
Hey everybody, sorry I'm late. I had to travel today for work and I got to Wi-Fi and a desk as soon as I could. I'm happy to be here with y'all.
So just to catch you guys up, we had jumped into our Pillar 4 implementation plan feedback template that we've been filling out with comments. We've kind of gone through objectives 1 through 4, but wanted to give Jaden the opportunity to add any additional thoughts he may have on those 4 objectives. We can take it kind of slow here, give you a minute to look at what's on the page, and then we'll jump back to the fifth objective, which we actually have comments from, but the member that kind of took the lead on that wasn't able to join us today. Jaden, I also wanted to let you know that as I said in the beginning, that I had the opportunity to reach out to the Boys and Girls Clubs and Ys to at least share the information about the November 10th hearing and kind of start an initial conversation about what might be ways we could engage with their young people more. I know that I think you were gonna maybe do some outreach to the student government folks.
Yep. I haven't received a response yet. So I'm just waiting for one.
Great. Jaden, was there anything that you wanted to say or add to one of the first 4 objectives here? Or how would you like me to kind of scroll a little bit? Or
Could you drop the link in the chat, if you wouldn't mind?
they're on the, oh, that's going to be difficult.
Jaden, are you able to get the link I dropped to the rolling agenda for today in the chat?
Yep.
And once you go in there, if you look at the 4:40 time, I think there's a link to this document.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Got it. All right. And I just lost my share screen because I'm so good at doing that. There we go. Here we are. Just give you a minute. We're not in any rush. We're good on time as of right now.
Just looking at it initially, I don't have any thing to add at the moment, but I'll look at it a little bit more in depth.
Great. And it looks like, Chandra, you've dropped your notes in now, so they're there. So the 5th objective is our last one on this list. And I can read them since we do not have the person who filled these out, but on the outcomes, identify what constitutes a behavioral or physical health need per the Individuals with Disabilities IDEA Act, or diagnosis from medical and psychological mental health professionals. And then a question, what process is used to ensure that all students have access to both behavioral and physical health services from qualified professionals? On the milestones and deliverables, well, how will MSDE, I think, adopt or regulations to implement behavioral health trainings to qualified professional clinicians? How will the consortium ensure that behavioral health supports are provided in a non-stigmatized manner, particularly with regard to rural areas? Interested in what metrics will be used to determine whether community partnership services are impacting everyone. Seems these metrics should be determined by measures with full consideration to validity using multiple factors. And then comments on the tasks and guidance. Currently, behavioral health supports are provided by a variety of professionals and clinicians in schools, including professionals, school counselors, mental health workers, social workers, and school psychologists. Community partnerships will need to better identify what their role in providing these services if deemed appropriate. And the statewide framework for community support and partnership should be shared transparently across all school districts in conjunction with a master list of resources. And I think a lot of these go back to the consortium work, which is the major focus, or one of the major focuses of Objective 5. And I want to reflag for our folks that in our agenda, there's a link to the opportunity to share a public comment for the consortia. So I think what we might want to do now, Chandra, is talk about next steps for this document, like where we're going from here.
Okay, so at this point, what we'd like to do, once we get all of the information in, if there's any dialogue that we'd like to have, we want to submit a one-page document, a summary document, or use our feedback template as a resource for the AIB to consider when they're really looking at seeking input. So these are things that we just want to make sure are on the radar or on the map for the AIB in general, as a way to share our public comment at the time of the report on the 10th.
And we have another meeting scheduled for after the 10th. So we really do, I guess, need to work somewhat independently to make sure that all the comments that we want to add to this document are done and submitted. And maybe Chandra, you and I can maybe meet one more time before the 10th to kind of put it in a digestible format.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Fagan, any thoughts, reflections? I know you're probably just reading this now, so like you're looking at it and it's like a lot.
No, I just appreciate everybody's hard work. I know this is a lot. It's a lot to comb through. It's a lot to point out, but y'all are just so thoughtful, and I know I really appreciate it. It's going to help improve this plan, and I'll go into it in more detail kind of here in real time, and I'll offer more, but I just want to register acknowledgement and gratitude. So I appreciate y'all, and I hope everybody's doing okay. You had a good Halloween. I got into an argument with my Uber driver yesterday. He said, "You're my first pastor all day who's not wearing a mask." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I forgot my mask." I thought he meant like COVID mask.
Rachel, is there anything else that we need to cover at this point? I know we finished way ahead of time.
We ran over last time, so we added more time. Of course, that's the way it works, right? But no, again, I would echo what Fagan said, that we just really appreciate the deep dive, and I'll take some of these back now, and then we will anticipate the final document as well. But you've made some really great flags. And then also, just so Jaden, the report on neighborhood indicators of poverty, we did post a link to that. It was submitted early, so if anybody wants to dig into that to kind of compare notes, it's there. And then simultaneously, the consortium is really ramping up and getting busy with their work, and they are seeking public input. So there's a link to an email they sent out through their news blast today that they also want to hear from as many people as possible. So Chandra, I think you guys are in great shape. You've got great notes here, both in your notes and in that summary document or the detailed document. So we'll make sure that these go back.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who contributed. Committee members, please know that this is a working document. So if you go through and something else pops into your head, please be sure to add it into the document itself, the template. Ellie had sent that out, so if you have to search for the actual template, you can find it through an email that she sent out on the 27th, I believe.
And now it's linked in the agenda notes,
Okay,
so you can get it there as well. And yeah, I would highly, since we're going to get off early, I'm going to read the neighborhood indicators of poverty report until my 6 o'clock meeting, because I think, it's such a critical component. It is determining what schools are eligible for these resources. This is going to be a huge deal as part of how resources are distributed going forward. So I would encourage everybody to really do that dig in. It'll be fun. Little fun reading for the next my next 40 minutes or so till I do the next thing today. But yes, thank you, Rachel, for linking all those reports.
You bet.
Okay,
And
well,
when we get the next one, I'll go ahead and email that to the committee as well. These are
Because there's one due on 12/1 as well, and I'm not sure what the difference is between, is that like, is the 12/1 like an implementation plan?
I think it's their final, I'll clarify. I think actually it was due 12/1, and there was a request to have it turned in by November 1st so that the feedback could be incorporated into the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, so
they
that's
work fast.
probably the, maybe there's just two references to it somewhere, and one says 12 and
Right.
one says 11.
Yep, there was a date change so that the feedback would be here in time and usable for the plan. But there is a plan coming today. I'll send that link out. And then for anybody looking for those, we publish those on the AIB website on the tab called resources. And then it would be in the section submitted from MSDE. That's where the neighborhood indicators of poverty report, the most recent one, is. And then that's where the next one will be posted.
Got it. All
well, if
right.
there's nothing more, thank you all for joining us. Still have a lot of work to do before the 10th and before December 1st as well. Looking forward to our next formal meeting on the 29th of November.
I think we can probably go ahead and work on getting December meeting dates. Chandra, when you and I meet about the final version of the recommendations document, maybe we can
Lay out some dates.
lay out some possible dates for December.
Sounds good. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you all.